The nature of Donington. We went to Snetterton, we went to the fast and flowing Thruxton, and now we're here at Oulton Park Island for the fourth round of the VMO TCUK 2023 season. Myself, Cameron Roger, and Zach Sweeney bringing you through the action and the three races that we're going for tonight. It's been a very tense start to the season. We've already had a race to be rescheduled. We've had some argy-bargy style racing as well. It's certainly been an interesting one. We look forward to more of that this evening. And Zach, we went from the fast nature to a bit more of a twisty nature today, a little bit more of an old school track. How do you think that's really going to reflect with the drivers tonight?
Well, obviously, Oulton Park, we're not on the full layout where you go through Shell Oils and then, round through the Britain chicane. You literally just, you come off the Cascades and you turn like a tight hairpin onto that back straight. So overtaking opportunities are definitely going to be limited because the rest of the circuit essentially is single file. I mean, maybe if you're brave, you can go for a move into the final corner at Lodge or turn number one, potentially. But apart from that, it is going to be quite, single file nature. So you've got to pick and choose your moments quite carefully. I mean, we expected sends for today into that back hairpin. So I think it is going to be a bit more of a clever game, more like the Slipstream Fest that we saw at Thruxton.
And here is your championship standings, I should say. After the third round at Thruxton, Matt Richards is leading the way on 129 points, some 25 points ahead of Dan Herlock now. So that is more than a race victory. So he's really looking strong for this. But it's pretty close behind Dan Herlock there. 104 points with John Munro, just 11 points back than Thomas O'Leary, who's had a strong last couple of rounds at Snetterton and Thruxton, sitting there in fourth. Callum Cripps, who seems to be going up and down in the races, is there in fifth before we get Chris Butcher and the independent entry there, who's looking pretty good, but unfortunately gets into a couple of crashes so far this season. Ryan Elliott, a race winner this season, he's there in seventh place. Ross McGregor, another one for Rocket Sim Sports, in eighth. Callum Wilson in ninth, the teammate of your championship leader, and then Dan Kell in 10th place, who's only been to a couple of rounds so far this season. So yeah, it's looking pretty tight in the drivers, but also in the team's standings. Richardson Co leading by quite a way, but look at that, tied for second place between RSR and Rocket. Certainly looking to be very close indeed. Of course, we still have quite a few rounds left to go, 7 in total, so 21 races. So a lot to be decided, but still, Zach, it's looking really nice, and we don't really know who's going to be winning just yet.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously that is part and part due to not only the sheer competitiveness of these drivers, but also obviously the success ballast and the championship ballast. So coming into race one, it's championship order. So first place gets an additional 75 kilograms of ballast, second 66, 57, 48, etc, all the way down to 10th. Then for race 2 and 3, it's dependent on the previous race's order. So always there's some sort of success penalty, which really does sort of entail people to, it invites underdogs into the mix. It invites different people to take victories. But what it does reward, Cam, is consistency. Drivers like Matt Richards, who even though they are carrying 75 kilos of success ballast, will still finish inside that top 10, top 6, top 5, that sort of region, sometimes even getting themselves onto the podium. That's the level of consistency that you need. So while yes, we can have surprise race winners, championships are won through consistency.
Certainly, and especially with a 3-race evening as well, the way that you have to manage that is quite important. We, of course, have the tyre options as well. We have the options and the primes, the options being the faster, softer compound, and the primes the harder, slower compound. You have to use the options at least, not at least, just once out of the 3 races, and you have to choose which of the 3 races you want. So, say if you've got the ballast, maybe you don't want to actually use your options in this first race because you're going to wear them out more. You've got a lot more weight in the car. Maybe you're going to save them a little bit later. It's certainly a bit of a strategy. And just looking at the options we have tonight, Matt Richards, your championship leader, he's going for the options in race 3. So he's looking to try and hold it down to get a nice grid place for the third race and then use the options. It's certainly, an interesting format, Zach, and we've been enjoying it so far over the course of the season. Here's where we've been to so far. Donington Park National to start the season back in May before going to the Snetterton 300 in June. And then to finish off June, we had Thruxton. And now in July, we have Oulton Park Island after a couple of weeks break before, of course, going through the other major tracks around the UK. It's certainly a great calendar and definitely enjoying it so far, Zach.
Yeah, I absolutely love, obviously, the fact that we're following or pretty much ticking through all of the British circuits. there are so many good ones to choose from in the UK, and we're going to go through all of them. I think with each race there is a new challenge, of course, but we will always going to have good action delivered, good racing delivered. Whether it is more strategical, whether it is more a driver circuit that isn't going to be too abundant in overtaking, it will still be a good evening of racing action because of the fact, obviously, that consistency is going to be rewarded. So over the whole championship, it is going to be all about consistency, driving your way through, no matter what circuit we're at. But yeah, a good roster for our calendar, ticking them through, and we'll end sort of in the middle of October, which, the season is really well and truly underway.
It is, and let's get some cars on track view. Just had the qualifying session not too long ago, and now the drivers just have a couple of minutes to get themselves ready for the race. Of course, a little bit more fuel in the car and everything like that, and also just making sure that you are prepared. Here's Sam Dowman. He's had some struggles so far this season, sitting down in 30th place in the standings, just 1 point to his name. Hopefully he can have a bit of a better time out of it today. Of course, it's a pretty tricky track actually here at Oulton Park. It's certainly an old school, it's a narrow one, a lot of undulating parts of the track, and it's certainly one that you can easily make a mistake, and the walls aren't too far away either.
Yeah, it's a classic club style circuit. I mean, you've got track, grass, wall. Basically, that's the formula, and you're going to get punished if you make a mistake. Let's put it that way. I mean, even through the chicane, you're a millimeter away from quite a hefty barrier. Let's not beat around the bush. It's quite a hefty barrier. If you turn in too early, get a bit of oversteer, you tap that barrier, chances are your race is in the bin. So not only do you have to look out for the terrain, but you also have to look out for physical objects on the circuit as well to sort of avoid, obviously, other cars as well. That goes without saying. But yeah, for sure, it is a very much a driver's track. If you push the limits too hard and you overstep the mark, Oulton Park will chew you up and it will very firmly spit you back out. So consistency, as I say, is going to rule above all, but making sure that you do keep it nicely within the track limits, because sort of as we saw on the exit of Druids there, following on board with Callum Cripps, the way he ran quite wide, it's probably one of the easiest corners to do so. If you run wide there and you touch the grass, you are essentially a passenger. It's so slippery out there. So yeah, you've got to keep it within the track, but also try and go as fast as you can. And it's always a very difficult compromise to get right.
Yeah, this is a newish format to me this season, coming into this TCUK for 2023. But it's been awesome to see actually just how the style of racing goes. But these cars are actually more complicated than you would actually think, just looking at it. We also have the hybrid system as well, which is a bit more of a sort of push to pass so far as well, that we've basically seen it to be used by the drivers. They can use it 3 times a lap just for about 5 seconds each, for a total of 15. So it's definitely something that you have to think about. And the tyre wear as well is actually pretty huge. Even though we've got pretty short races, 15 laps around here, it's certainly the tyres will certainly start to give up even those prime tyres by the end of the race. There's definitely a lot of driver strategy that comes into this actually, and we often see the better drivers making a lot of progress during each race.
We do, of course. It's a format that, as I say, promotes sort of surprise winners, and the success ballast, reverse grids, things like that really does promote surprise winners. But it is still going to be the best drivers that win championships. It's still going to be the best drivers inside the top 5. Take our championship leaders of Matt Richards, Daniel Hurlock and John Monroe. Yes, John Monroe had a bit of a shaky start to Thruxton, but he managed to, at the very least, still recover it to a podium in race 3. That's the sort of standard you have to rise to, making the most of each and every single race you get, choosing the right tyre for the right time. And yeah, you can't predict how your evening's going to go, so you can't really, in hindsight, see what the best tyre for each race is going to be. But you can make a good educated guess. How much success ballast are you carrying into race 1? How are you going to factor that into your decision? How much are you going to attack in each race? All those different sort of variables will be calculated in these drivers' minds, and it's going to be the best ones that make the best decisions and ultimately are the best to drive around a circuit.
I like also the strategy you have to do between the 3 races. So obviously coming into the first one, as we got the championship standings to assign the ballast, but then race 2 has the result of race 1, but then the ballast determined for the race result. Therefore, you could get someone with no ballast go stick it on pole, win the first race, but then in the second race, they then get all the ballast added to them, and all of a sudden the championship contenders who are behind them now have less ballast and they're faster drivers. So they work their way forward as well. So we generally see that the championship leaders get back to the front in the race too. But then again, we have the reverse grid, so they go backwards for a second time and work their way up. So it's a pretty interesting format that you have to keep on top of. It's definitely, we haven't seen anyone almost like sacrifice a race, but we have seen some people work it out pretty well. Maybe they struggle a bit in the first race. So in race 2, all they're thinking about is getting back into that reverse grid spot and then having a better chance for race 3.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the race 3 is determined literally by a spinny wheel, and it couldn't get more random than that. We do it on the broadcast. You press a button, it spins, it tells you. I think it ranges anywhere from the top 6. There it is, the top 6 to the top 12. So ideally, you want to be inside the top 6 to guarantee your chance of benefiting from a reverse grid race. So that obviously plays into a factor. But also, if you're that driver in 13th place, you want to get into 12th place, not only just for an extra place, but also to at least give yourself that chance to just maybe get yourself within that top 12 range to then benefit. Because the difference between 13th and 12th, say if we do roll top 12 reverse for race 3, the difference between 13th and 12th might be half a second, maybe even less in race 2. But then you go into race 3 and it's the difference between the first row and the 7th, which is huge. So it's all about pushing until the very end.
I'm trying to think. I think it was John. Yeah, I'm just looking at the results from last time. John Munro, 3rd place in the championship. Yeah, Thruxton race 1, 0 points. Thruxton race 2, 4 points, and then got back to 3rd in the 3rd race. I remember there was a little bit of carnage that helped that as well. But that just shows you, even if you have a bad race 1, 0 points, you can still get back to the podium, and that is why the format seems to work around here. Keeps the options available, and especially for him, 3rd place in the championship. That is very important points. That's, of course, you need to be getting here and there. When you have 30 races over the course of a season, you definitely have to keep on top of that. I'm just waiting to move into the race session. Qualifying has ended, and of course they'll have the formation lap before we go into the 15-lap race. We're looking at quite a few actually on the prime compound tyres for this first race, Zach. So quite a few drivers taking that opportunity to try and get actually it looks like we are going underway for the formation lap. So let's get you the grid for today's race. Lewis Redshaw stuck it on pole position, Callum Wilson following in behind, Ross McGregor in 3rd, and Thomas Vac there in 4th place for RSR. So good to see Lewis having a solid qualifying there. Championship leader Matt Richards in 5th place, Scott Cervic, who had a solid race in Thruxton last time out, in 6th, Dan Kell in 7th, and Callum Cripps there in 8th place. Rounds out your top 10 is going to be John Munro and Cam Brewster, with Louis Hartley and Jack Nichols inside your top 12. Good to see quite a few different of the car manufacturers here up at the front as well. Luke Mitchell in 13th place, followed by Stephen Haley in 14th, Phil Garside in 15th, and Ben Willis rounding out your top 16. He just can't catch a break this season. Let's hope he has a nice race today. Leppit is in 17th place, with Sam Dowman in 18th. Adam Locke there in the recently moved to the Cupra in 19th place. Anthony Hilton in 20th. Max Spooner in 21st. Thomas O'Leary 22nd. Phil Morby in 23rd. And Scott Mitchell inside your top 24. And I believe just one more driver. 25 drivers today, and that is Dan Herlock. That is important for the championship, starting down way at the back of the grid. 2nd place, Zach. That's not where he's going to want to start.
No, not at all. And obviously RSR trying to push after Richards & Co. in the Teams Championship as well. He's got a lot of work cut out ahead of him if he wants to come out on top today, or at least at the very least limit the damage. I think that is probably going to be the aim over the course of race 1 for Herlock. Move his way up as much as possible and use each race as sort of a stepping stone. Use race 1, get into race 2, maybe score some good points in race 2, and hopefully benefit off the reverse grid for race 3. Because as you say, even if race 1 doesn't go your way, you can still score a decent amount of points. And Herlock, well, yeah, good luck to him.
And it looks like Lewis Redshaw as well on the option compound tyres, according to my list. So that is going to be big for him out at the front. Drivers just coming onto the grid now and working their way through the final corner of Lodge before working up to the final grid spots. 25 drivers today. Callum Wilson as well on the front row. He's on the option tyres, so look out for those to be very fast at the front of this race. Dan Herlock lines it up on the grid. 15 laps to come for the first of 3 races this evening at Oulton Park for the TCUK 2023, and we are underway. Redshaw gets a solid start, but so does McGregor from second place. Gets up the inside already from Wilson as we're getting the RSR from Vac down the inside for third place. Wilson's going to be losing 2 places here as we're trying to get Scott Cervic to go side by side. It remains side by side though actually for Wilson and Vac down the hill into Cascade, side by side just behind them as well. Onto the grass goes the RSR car. There goes Vac off the track as we have a solid opening lap here.
We do, kept nice and clean. Now into the hairpin. Of course, they don't complete the whole run. In towards Shell Oil's outside line goes the Fords, and he's trying to get the long way around. Dan Kell trying to get himself up into 4th place. Matt Richards, by the way, qualified in 5th place with 75 kilos. He's worked his way up into 4th as well for good measure. Yellow flags in the background. I think Thomas Vac has still had some more issues, and it's been an abysmal start for him. Callum Cripps as well, trying to move his way to the inside of the chicane. He's got the Rocket Sim Sport alongside, able to etch himself up now into 7th place. A chaotic start, but for the most part quite clean.
Oh yeah, nice opening lap here. So still trying to get to single file. Is that Dan Kell trying to go side by side with championship leader up towards Druids, and I think he might have actually been able to make it through. Yes, he has. Amazing move there by Kell to get up into 4th place. Of course, a bit less ballast on him as we get Richards now down towards the final corner at Lodge. Is he going to be able to go side by side in the braking zone? He's on the outside though, so he's going to have to sit there and try and get a run out across this start-finish straight. A bit of a gap actually forming ahead of them, with a bit of a train now forming behind, so they need to be careful to not let the top 3 get away, but maybe that is what we're going to see with the softer option tyres on Wilson and Redshaw ahead. But certainly a strong opening lap there from Dan Kell.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving his way up a couple of places. Louis Hartley as well, a little bit further down. This is the fight for 9th. Trying to close in on John Munro, of course, 3rd place in the championship, and looking to, at the very least, closing the gap to Matt Richards, obviously, with Herlock maybe having a lower point score this round. Who's that off? Is that Nichols, potentially?
Yeah, I think it's Jack Nichols, 20 places now, gone down to 21st, actually 22nd. He's having all sorts of trouble, still can't get back on the track, halfway down the Lakeside Straight in towards the Island hairpin, and that is not how he would have wanted his race to go. Up the hill though, over the hilltop, down into his option chicane. Looks like there the quartermaster car is going to be getting past Phil Morby a little bit further down. That was Adam Lock. Dan Herlock here, he's had a decent start up into 19th place so far, so making some moves, but he needs to be getting even higher if he wants to, of course, get up towards those reverse grid races in race 2. So it's almost a 2-race strategy he needs to do to get himself there up inside the top 12 at least. Now down in towards Lodge, we're going side by side. Cervic on the outside, we get Cripps up the inside. Can he make any sort of move? Yes, he can. Space left by Cervic, and a nice clean move.
Yeah, nice bit of camber on the inside of Lodge, so you can really use that to rotate the car. The way it dips back down as well really aided that inside line for Cripps, and Scott Sovic unfortunately has lost the place. Thomas O'Leary trying to move his way past Willis into turn number 1. Good place to get a nice up and under if you can. Get a nice late apex. However, you are halted in your progress. Thomas O'Leary has got a really good overlap side by side as they dip their way through the Cascades. Has O'Leary got the pace, or is it going to be fought by Willis side by side? He's barged out to the extremities of the circuit, but he's kept his foot in, and he's going to be rewarded by the inside line.
Yeah, 4th place in the championship for O'Leary, so these are important positions to get himself up. In on the inside now, in towards the hairpin. That's going to be a nice solid overtake for sure. Don't think you can defend around the outside then, certainly not, as Willis drops down there into that 13th place. So yeah, Leary, definitely some important places. Let's see a replay of this start. This is Thomas Vac there in the RSR car, replacing Ryan Elliott, I believe, today. Bit of contact almost there on the exit of the first corner as they try and work themselves into a position, but this is where it gets difficult. Through Denton's in towards Cascades. He's okay at this moment in time. Yes, just all on his own. Just goes way too deep there on the brakes. Has to go all over the grass and drop way down. It's a shame because Thomas is a very fast driver, but unfortunately, just a little mistake there.
Yeah, a small one indeed. Matt Richards relinquishing the place to his teammate Callum Cripps into 5th place, and just allowing him through in the black and white BMW, and Cripps is able to continue on. Is he going to fight Matt Richards to Hardy's, I think, just tucking him behind, probably the more sensible option. Obviously, Matt Richards is the championship leader, but he's carrying a heck of a lot more ballast than Callum Cripps is at this stage, so might be better not to fight. But another look, this is Vac on his rejoin. There's Max Spooner side by side with one of the Fords into the hairpin for the first time. Oh, wow. A nice little reverse entry for good measure, I suppose.
Yeah, that was a nice little 360 there. Obviously not the fastest way to go through the corner, but certainly entertaining. And that is what that's what we like to see in some ways. I'm trying to work out who that was. Unfortunately, I think it might have been Leppert or Hartley. It looks like in that car. Here's Cam Brewster inside your top 10. That's where he started. Hasn't been able to make any moves just yet. Got Hartley up ahead of him. Haley in behind, and of course O'Leary. But you can just see you get into these little packs, and this is where you have to try and work your way through, but it's so difficult to do so around a tight and twisty track. But it's certainly possible if you find the way through. Here's Herlock coming up through Watertower in towards Druids. Sometimes you can dive down the inside, not this time though. Gets actually quite a nice exit mid corner there. Can he get Phil Morby in towards the final corner at Lodge? It's going to be a bit of a dive if he wants to do so, but he's important positions to help his progress, but he is losing a bit of time here.
He is, and for Dan Harlock, he really cannot afford to sort of waste too much time sat behind another driver. So he's got to take each driver as they come, get in front as soon as they can, because the problem with starting so far back, not necessarily is how quick you are or how many cars you got to get through. It's more a case is that's almost into each other. Dan Harlock running a little bit wide, but it's more the field spread that you get to. Dan Harlock might well be one of the quickest drivers on track, but by the time he actually gets into a decent position, the rest of the field is gone. They're all spread out, spaced out. There's not really much that he can do, specifically in a short distance 15-lap sprint that we've got for the 3 laps. So obviously Harlock is teetering on the edge of some points. He's got to get himself into the top 15 to at least score a singular point, which isn't an unrealistic target, but I think at the very least points in race 1 is a good place to start. Go into race 2, gain a few more places, and then hope that you can benefit off the reverse grid for race 3 and salvage something from this evening. That has to be his aim. Louis Hartley, however, on the back of the Rocket Simsport car, potentially of John Monroe, and he is indeed, this is the fight for 8th place.
Yeah, Monroe, of course, up there, 3rd in the championship as well, so does want to be dropping down, but the issue is when you're high up in the championship, you get the ballast for this first race, so it really puts your evening to a difficult start, as we're seeing with Matt Richards as well. Had a decent first lap, obviously when everyone's close together, but then once it settles down, is it going onto the grass? Scott Morris is that, letting everyone through in towards the final corner. I think he actually might have been the one who went around it earlier, having some issues up towards the front. But yeah, for Monroe, definitely struggling a bit with the weight in that car in this first race, but it's cool though with that format. It gives other people opportunities to win some races, as we're seeing with Lewis Redshaw at the front of the field so far. He's sitting down in 12th place, just 1 second place to his name, which is actually in the first race at Thruxton a few weeks ago.
Yeah, doing a brilliant job, of course, and trying to replicate some good more positions. Obviously, we've been told that here at Oulton Park is probably one of the tracks that favours the rear-wheel drive. John Monroe making a bit of a farce of his lops, and that's going to allow Hartley to maybe have a bit of a look at that. He's got the overlap as they run their way up over the crest. Now towards Drew as the Hyundai pushed to the inside of the circuit. Now he's got the inside onto the grass under brakes. Monroe's able to keep it the long way round. Hartley's now under a little bit of pressure from Brewster and Haley just in behind. Also potentially O'Leary not too far off the back of this fight as well. But definitely favouring the rear-wheel drive cars, and you can see that coming in at full swing with Redshaw running away on that softer compound tyre.
Oh yes, says Brewster. I thought he was actually going to get a run. Oh, bit of contact actually as we come up the hill with Haley over the start-finish line. 4 cars almost fighting each other. Brewster, I think, using a bit of the push to pass to try and find a way through. But it's actually going to be Haley now coming up the inside of Old Hull. What a move that was. Brewster just ran out of space there on the outside. Is he going to get 2 actually? Trying to come now round the outside of Cascades. That would be an absolutely huge send by Haley. Just be nudged out wide there by Hartley as we come back to the front. This is Dan Kell now losing a place to Callum Cripps. Cripps doing a great job so far this race. In towards the hairpin though. It's going to be Hartley still leading the way from Haley. Brewster's trying to come back. Brewster now is going to lose another place. Here comes Thomas O'Leary out of nowhere joining in on this battle.
brilliant bits of battling going on here, and of course Oulton Park is a little bit scarce and overtaken. Opportunities inside line potentially for the Civic, and he's tagged the BMW round. Brewster sideways, O'Leary sideways. They've continued on in formation, essentially pointing the right way forwards. However, Ben Willis is one to capitalise on it. Also Lepitt, I think, in the background as well, trying to get side by side with Brewster. He does exactly that. Always difficult to make a move into Druids, but he's going to get squeezed from Brewster, who's definitely not going to be too happy and driving with some desperation for sure.
Oh yeah, Bruce has not had a good half a lap, or even one lap, I should say. Really, yeah, been in the bull ring, and the drivers have got their elbows out around him. He drops now down into 14th place, and now as we come up, oh, that is off onto the grass though. Unfortunately for Lepitt, he's going to give that place back to Cam Brewster, and that is a bit of a gift for Brewster, who's going backwards, and that's going to be some nice momentum going back his way. Lap 8 of 15 here as we come through this first corner. Is that Herlock actually just on the back of this battle as well? He's looking pretty good to try and get himself up into those points. Yeah, P16 he is at the moment. He's got his teammate Thomas back just in behind, just come up this straight. There's Sam Dowman trying to have a pretty solid race. No, Dowman, I should say. Phil Garside trying to have a pretty solid race here in P15. Jack Nichols, he was off the track earlier on in the race, diving up the inside, all wheels locked up there, and he managed to get his stops and make the move.
Yeah, good job in fairness for Jack Nichols, obviously on the back foot through this race after a bit of a mistake a little bit earlier on, seeing him off, I think, on the exit of Cascades. He's on the fight back, still a long way off points, P15 as I say. However, we've got a good little battle materialising here for second. Callum Wilson in the Richards & Co Racing at 444 machine, that BMW rear-wheel drive, as we've said, feeling very strong around Oulton Park, so potentially could get himself up in a second place and make the most of race number 1. And well, we'll see what he can do as he tries to find an avenue through on McGregor. No way through for now, but if McGregor keeps making small mistakes like that, running ever so slightly wide, Callum Wilson at some point is just going to say thank you very much and find his way past quite easily.
Yeah, that was certainly a little bit wide from McGregor, using all of the track available. I guess that's what we have rented for the evening. But here comes Callum Wilson down inside the hairpin, has a bit of a look, tries to make McGregor go wide. Actually does go a little bit, but that might be just a change of lines between the front and rear wheel drive cars. Here comes Wilson though, up over the hilltop in towards the Hislop chicane. Can he find a way through down the inside? No, straight, not quite long enough. And McGregor defending well towards the front there, but I do reckon Wilson's going to be able to try and find a way through, but before the end of this race. Redshaw, by the way, is absolutely gone off into the distance. We haven't mentioned him so far this race, 6.5 seconds. He is doing such a good job, stuck it on pole, and is just leading from the front. So we saw one of the cars there was Hartley maybe going a little bit too wide there coming to his stops.
Yeah, that's definitely not the way to go that things through that chicane. But this man right here, Lewis Redshaw, is doing such a good job out in front. But we have to immediately cut our way back to a fight. This is now the fight for points. Lepitt versus Garside. This is for 15th. And now, nose to tail between the two of them. The Vapor Shield Racing 888 machine is now trying to look to the left-hand side. Defensive goes Johan Lepitt. And now into Lodge Corner. A bit of a lock-up on the front end of that Honda Civic. Around the outside, though, goes Garside now to keep that at 15th place. Brilliant job, it must be said, to get himself up into the point.
Yeah, lovely move. He's been working his way forward over the last couple of laps that we've seen him, but does need to look out, of course, with Thomas Bag now trying to come into the back. Up towards this battle for the podium, though, McGregor certainly slowing down Cripps a little bit. We've got Dan Kell not too far behind, trying to get involved on the action. Actually, or Cripps, I should say, trying to get involved on the action. Wilson trying to get all over the back of McGregor in towards his lots. Can't quite find a way through. McGregor's going to have to do such a good job, but there is that Thomas Vack? Actually, yes, it is. Trying to get up the inside now, over the top of the hill, and now down in towards the downhill, braking towards Hislops. Is there going to be enough space down the inside there? Yes, side by side on the apex. Bit of contact between the two. He's going to try and get a bit of a switch back, but that's not going to work.
Not quite able to. And now look at this. We've got 3 cars all in the contention for second place, and McGregor has got his work cut out for him if he wants to keep second place in the final third of race number 1. Callum Cripps trying to get himself up onto the podium. The two teammates potentially going to go fighting for P3. He does exactly that. Wilson is under pressure as Cripps pulls to his right-hand side, inside line for turn number 1, and he's managed to work his way through. Cripps has had some sensational pace this race, and I think he's probably, and I think Wilson is in agreement with this one, the one to lead the charge against McGregor. They can both attack and make that Simsport car feel so isolated.
Yeah, it's interesting because Cripps should have a little bit more ballast as we go side by side through the first corner at Old Hall. Now down towards Denton's and the Cascades. We're getting 3 cars trying to find a way through. John Munro, a bit of contact there maybe on the apex of Cascades and all the way around the outside for Haley. That was such a good move there as we're getting Thomas O'Leary now trying to dive down the inside of the Rocket Sim Sports car. Can he make it to the apex? Yes, he can. John goes a little bit wide there, so that's going to be the move for O'Leary as we're trying to get who's that? Ben Willis now getting involved up over the top of the hill down in towards Hislops. I think Munro's going to be losing another position here. Yeah, it looks like he's going to back out of that one. 3 places gone for Munro already on this lap.
Yeah, not great. And it's when you've got nose to tail racing like this, it's all about momentum, it's all about rhythm, it's all about keeping that speed up, keeping that confidence up. And similar in karting, essentially, as soon as you're overtaken once, you're vulnerable. The drivers behind smell blood in the water and they will come for you. And it's very easy once you lose 1 to lose 2, 3, maybe even more. So unfortunately for John Munro, he's found himself well outside of the top 10. Kind of the silver lining to that is that he won't have any ballast applied for him for race 2 and might be able to work his way forward over the course of that one, which also for him is the race that he's running the softer compound tyre. So maybe it's not all over for John Munro for the remainder of this evening. However, our attention firmly on this fight for second. Redshaw is gone. He's run away with things up in front. It's a fight for second, and McGregor is trying tooth and nail to keep the 2 Richardson Co cars behind.
And he's doing a good job of it, all locking up though. We've seen that a few times so far, coming through the hairpin. Now Cripps gets an awesome exit though, but the rocket car just pulls away a bit on the straights. Intriguing to see that, as Cripps is, he's really doing a solid race so far, getting past his teammate there, and now trying to get onto this second place, but just shows you how difficult it is to overtake around this Oulton Park layout. As we've seen even further back, the battles continue. Here's Cam Brewster, went down to 13th place. Can he make a move on John Munro himself up into Hislops? No, not this time around. Dan Herlock's will be putting pressure on him to do so. Those, the 3 of them, try and get themselves up towards that important P12 they'll be looking for later.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best case scenario essentially for reverse grids. As we say, we spin the wheel. It's anywhere between 6th and 12th. Not caring about that whatsoever though is Cripps. He's up in a second place, and now it's a Simsport sandwich with Richard and Co red either side of him. Cripps leads this train in second, with now Wilson's turn to maybe find a way past the Rocket Simsport machine just in front of him, a little bit wide, and now the BMW puts his foot down. He pulls alongside the downhill run through the Cascades. It's going to be the outside line, but that rear wheel drive might be able to see him the long way round. McGregor's able to hang on for now.
Yeah, even with that advantage around that sort of corner, it's so difficult to go around the outside there. Just narrows and pinches you right on the exit as McGregor holds it to the inside there, holds onto that podium place. But there's actually a whole queue of cars coming, as here's Jack Nichols on his sort of return from the grass that we saw earlier. There's another place, bit of contact, but he's up into 17th. And this is also now the Richardson Co driver down the inside in towards Hislops. Bit of a contact there is made as the lock-up from the BMW. And that is Callum Wilson now, who's going to have Tankel all over the back of him. And he's got Ross McGregor hold him up, flashing off the headlights, trying to find a way through. He knows he's the faster driver, but McGregor has been doing such a good job defending so far this race.
He's making that car twice as wide as it actually is, and it's so impressive. But look now, oh my word, how has he dragged this many cars into this fight? And that's how easy it is to slow people down here at Oulton Park. If you can defend the right places, McGregor is doing exactly that. Into the final corner here at Lodge, and he's able to park it on the apex quite nicely, so much so that Wilson can't really do much to find a way past McGregor, fighting tooth and nail for this podium. And he's actually done himself a lot of favours, because now Callan Richards are in the mix. They're going to fight amongst themselves, side by side. The Ford sends the move. There's a bit of contact, but if these guys start to fight, McGregor can try and run away in front.
Kell making that contact. Oh, here comes Matt Richards round the outside of Cascades. He's going to try it, and that will be a huge move if he can do so. But no, Dan Kell just about squeezes him out. Actually, does he? I think Richards has got alongside. No, he hasn't. Down in towards the hairpin, though. It's going to be McGregor and Wilson side by side. Who is going to come out on top? It looks like it's going to be McGregor. He's doing such a good job defending, but all this is doing is letting Cripps get away for that second place. And now it's all down. 5-car battle for the final place on the podium with 1.5 laps to go. This is what TCUK is all about. And look at all the different manufacturers in there, different teams in there. Awesome display of driving. The drivers just need to, of course, find the all-important way through Ross McGregor. So far, only one person has done that this race, and that is Cripps.
And in all fairness, not to say he got a lucky escape or anything, but I think it was just a brief lapse in McGregor's defensive valiance, I suppose. And now he's well and truly firmly back on form. There goes Dan Kell all onto the grass, trying to find some space to the inside of Lodge Corner. No way through for now. What a race it's been. And Redshaw starts us for the final lap. Opportunities are wearing thin, Cam.
They certainly are. Can McGregor hold on? One final lap here for the first race of the evening at Oulton Park. Dan Kell once again goes to the inside at Old Hall. Can he keep it this time around? Yes, he can. Squeezes Wilson out onto the grass. Here will come Matt Richards on his teammate in towards Denton's. No, he's going to have to just go in behind, back out to that one and try and find the way, find the momentum. Oh, that is a huge snap though for Callum Wilson. Here comes Matt Richards now round the outside. He's going to cover him off in towards the hairpin. McGregor though still holds on to the third place. Dan Kell is the one in behind as these guys are going tooth and nail with just a few corners to go.
Absolutely loving every second of this. It's really been sheer domination from Redshaw, but in behind it's been, well, a bloodbath, a war zone. It's absolute calamity behind. But it's been kept clean, it's been kept respectful, and it's been hard but fair, incredible racing here on display for race one. There is Lewis Redshaw. He's only got one more corner left to go, and across the line victorious.
Or as Dan Kell's going to try and get up the inside of Druids. You don't always see a move there, but I think he's going to get himself up onto the podium with just one final corner to go. But at the front, it is Lewis Redshaw to come across the line and take victory here at Oulton Park for the first race of the evening. As we're going to get at Matt Richards diving it down the inside. Can he get himself up into fourth place? Yes, he can. McGregor's going backwards here as we're going to get Wilson come past as well. Up towards the line, 3 wide. Who is going to get fourth? It looks like it's just going to be Richards, but who was going to get in behind? It looks like it's McGregor on the timing screens ahead of Callum Wilson. Cervic will get 7th place. What a finish there for the first race.
Well, if this is what we're in for the evening, bring it on. I loved those 15 laps from start to finish. It was nothing short of brilliant. A fantastic fight for second and the podium beyond that, and it came down to the wire. Redshaw taking a very deserved first victory of the season, and well, it couldn't have gone better for him, but it couldn't have gone better for us in the commentary booth as well. It was a sensational race to watch and a great way to kickstart the evening.
Yeah, that was certainly very nice, and some names to note further down. Dan Hurlock got up into 13th place, got John Munro just a couple of places behind. He unfortunately just dropped down the order, but that was certainly a very hectic first race of the evening. And remember, we still have 2 more to go, but here is your confirmed or sort of unofficial results. Lewis Redshaw at the front there, taking victory by an absolute country mile. Callum Cripps in 2nd place, and Dan Kell sneaking that final place on the podium. Matt Richards, solid result with the ballast in 4th place. Ross McGregor, after his hard defence, only 5th place for him. Callum Wilson in 6th, and Scott Cervic inside your top 7. Stephen Haley and Louis Harley, they had some good scraps in the mid-pack, got themselves into 8th and 9th, with Thomas O'Leary rounding out your top 10. Ben Willis and his teammate just in behind Cam Brewster for 11th and 12th place. Dan Hurlock in 13th. John Munro in 14th place. Thomas Schvack, unfortunately from the second row of the grid, finished in P15. Phil Garside in 16th place. Jack Nichols recovered from the grass to 17th place. Leppert in 18th. Adam Locke 19th. And Phil Morby in 20th place. He just couldn't seem to get past Adam Locke today. Sam Dowman in 21st, Hilton in 22nd, Max Spooner in 23rd, Scott Morris 24th, and your other DNF, Luke Mitchell, who we didn't really mention today, but he was DNF a bit earlier in the race. But of course, we still have 2 races to go this evening, so we'll have a little bit of a warm-up for the drivers before we get the ballast re-sorted, and the grid will go again for the second race. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back to Oulton Park. This is the second race of the evening for round 4 of the VMO TCUK for 2023. Myself, Cameron Roger, and Zach Sweeney are bringing you through the action for today. As ever, we come to the second race, which is basically the result of the first race, but the ballast is reordered to everyone in their order. Formation lap about to start. Drivers just griddy up, and Zach, that was certainly a very hectic first race of the evening, but the ballast is reordered now, so I wonder if we're going to see some things flip on its head and some of the faster drivers come through from the back. But actually, first we'll get to the grid. Lewis Redshaw and Callum Cripps on your front row, with Dan Kell and Matt Richards on your second row in behind. Look for them to try and battle for victory today, with some big ballast now for Lewis at the front. Ross McGregor and Callum Wilson inside your top 6. They had an awesome battle across the line there. Scott Cervick in 7th and Stephen Haley inside your top 8. Louis Hartley in 9th place, and Thomas O'Leary makes good progress there in that first race. He gets himself up into P10. Ben Willis and his teammate Cam Brewster round out your top 12. Dan Herlock making some good progress. He needs to get himself inside the reverse grid places, and so does John Munro there from 14th place. Thomas Vack in 15th and Phil Garside in 16th place. 17th is Jack Nichols. He'll be looking to avoid the grass this time, with Leppert in 18th. Adam Locke and Phil Morby round out your top 20. Let's hope Morby can actually find a way through Adam Locke this race. Sam Dowman in 21st, Anthony Hilton in 22nd, Max Spooner 23rd for your DNFs from last race. First of all, Scott Morris will be starting in 24th, and then from the back will be Luke Mitchell in 25th place. And Zach, what's your expectations now that the ballast has gone front to back? We've seen Redshaw, he's now got 75 kilos extra. I don't think he'll be able to put a 12-second gap this time.
No, and that's no offence to him. And also, let's not forget that his race 1 was his race on the softer option compound of tyres. So now he's going to be struggling ever so slightly more, and is not only carrying ballast but also on a harder compound tyre. So it's going to be difficult for him to keep that lead, but he's in a BMW. Rear-wheel drive cars do seem ever so slightly stronger than their front-wheel drive counterparts. So I wouldn't say it's impossible. I wouldn't say the win for Redshaw, but absolutely a good result still. Top 10 is more than doable, I think, for a driver of Redshaw's calibre. He showed that with his pace over the course of race 1. All he's got to do, essentially, is what McGregor did over the course of race 1, and defend like crazy. And, well, it's easy as that, isn't it, Cam?
Absolutely. We've got a couple of option runners for this. We've got Jack Nichols, Cam Brewster, Ben Willis, Dan Herlock are the ones to look out for. So yeah, the softer option, of course, they're a little bit faster, but then they potentially do wear out a little bit by the end of the race. Everyone has to use it once over the 3 races, and you can choose which one you have to do. Drivers now coming up to the grid. Race 2 of the evening coming your way from Oulton Park, and of course, remember, we have the reverse grid race after this. Is a random between 6 and 12, so you definitely want to get yourself inside the top 6, but also if you're a little bit further down, the top 12 is your aim today. Lewis Redshaw, he won from pole in the first race. Can he win from pole again? It's certainly going to be a little bit more difficult this time around with Cripps alongside. Cripps doesn't get a good start though, as Lewis Redshaw takes it away from pole position. Matt Richards already pulls across the inside. There's actually Dan Kell looking down the inside potentially for the race leaders. They try and work their way through. There's Cervic going off the way through Old Hall Corner, now down in toward Denton's and Cascades. Is there going to be any dives down the inside? No, everyone in pretty much single file formation at the front, but it's in behind. Scott Cervic, O'Leary and Haley going side by side. I think O'Leary's had a solid start, already up into P8.
Brilliant start, and now moving his way forward, maybe even a little bit more. You can see Stephen Haley just trying to move his way around in the back of the midfield. It's absolute carnage going into the hairpin for the first time, side by side all over the place. Cars forwards, backwards, left, right, wherever the eye can see there's a car, so you've really got to deal with the pressure accordingly. But now into Hislops for the first time, side by side, multiple cars trying to work their way forward, and now at the back end of the field, Luke Mitchell around the outside. Beautiful move, it must be said, able to move himself up another place. But so far so good, and a clean start, especially for Dan Kell.
Yeah, certainly. Kell having a great start to this race. He looks like he'll be going for the race lead actually on the tower, side by side with Redshaw. I think it was in towards Druids, and yes, it is in towards Lodge Corner as well. They still continue to be side by side through the fast 6 of the corners, now down into the slow ones. Redshaw on the inside, Dan Kell on the outside. As we come up now through dearly over the start-finish line. Still side by side between the two. They do not want to give it up. This is for the race lead, and this could be so crucial. Donington gets himself just ahead and takes the lead of the races. In behind here comes there's Cervic, and in behind he's got O'Leary's got himself up into 8th place, and this is actually good from Herlock. He's on the soft compound tyres, already up into 9th place. He's ahead of them. More overtakes as Cervic goes down in towards 8th place, and now around the outside here comes Herlock drifting it in his RSR car. Awesome scenes here at Oulton Park.
Absolutely, and he's actually able to keep the momentum up as well. So a bit of a slide, but it's not really phased him at all. Dan Herlock, let's remind you, qualified last for race 1. He's now at the opening stages of race 2, well and truly inside the top 10, and in a good place actually for the reverse grid placement, also up there in 8th place. Side by side here is Louis Hartley under a little bit of pressure from Ben Willis into his laps, late on the brake for the BMW, able to get himself alongside, takes the car all the way to the outside of the track, narrowly missing the barriers and the grass for good measure as well. And now it's all about momentum. Hartley being overtaken very quickly has to look in his rearview mirrors, because Brewster, well, he's going to be looking for a way to find a way past as well.
Great fights in TCUK. That's what we love to see in these first couple of laps for this second race of the evening, and it just shows you that anyone can really be overtaken from anywhere. And of course the drivers, they know what they're fighting for. They're fighting to get themselves up towards those reverse grid places and have the potential to get on the pole position for the final race. And remember, the ballast obviously doesn't affect, if it's the number 12 slot, the ballast doesn't affect that. So you could be starting a pole with 0 ballast, and that would be an awesome opportunity for these drivers. Down in the mid-pack, those extra points in the championship could be big. Cripps has gone off though. Cripps is dropping down the way. He's now down to P11. There he is on the left-hand side. He's gone off at Old Hall, the first corner of the track, and unfortunately, solid evening he's having, and he's already going outside the top 20.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, but that's unfortunately sometimes how the cookie crumbles and how motorsport is completely ruthless. A little bit wide there. Is that Herlock, I think, a little bit further up? I think it is. He's moved his way up to 6th place, now just ahead of Thomas O'Leary. Yeah, we're following this fight. Stephen Haley trying to move his way past John Monroe in the Rocket Sim Sport Cupra, now fighting their way through. You can see Herlock, there's the white, blue, orange RSR machine, trying to move his way past the Honda Civic of Thomas O'Leary. He's fallen back victim to O'Leary and out to 7th place. Here's Stephen Haley under a little bit of pressure from Ben Willis, who's had a really good run as well. But nose to tail, what is this, from McGregor downwards? And even then, Renshaw's not a million miles in the distance either. So yeah, a huge train all the way down to, well, beyond the top 20.
Yeah, this is awesome. When you see, obviously, the ballast at the front, and it sort of slows down the front drivers, and everyone in behind starts coming in. But as you say, massive train, and you just need to pick up these positions one at a time. New best lap time for Donington at the front. He's pulling away, and in behind, this is where all the action is. Haley is in 10th place, but in behind, who's going to be in 11th? Coming in towards turn 1, looks like it's going to be Ben Willis sliding up the inside there and getting himself past Louis Hartley. Awesome battles up and down the field. That's what we like. Coming through Cascade, some side-by-side battles a little bit further down. Herlock's got himself back ahead of Thomas O'Leary for 6th place. John Monroe up into 8th as well, as the battles continue here at Oulton Park.
They do, and they've got no sight of ceasing. Herlock darting the move to the inside of Wilson. We expected centre the hairpin. It's exactly what the RSR machine is bringing. Herlock is absolutely flying, not wasting any of his opportunities here today. And again, while it was a slow start in race 1, he's moved his way forward and already inside the top 5. And in all fairness, the fact that he's done it quite so early, Cam, the field hasn't had enough time to spread. They're not a million miles apart. He's only got a couple of attempts to McGregor, then a second to Redshaw, a couple of seconds to Richards, a couple of seconds to Kell, and he's still got 2/3 of the race to do it.
He's on the soft compound tyres, and this is the perfect opportunity to signal how the strategy works. Obviously, I don't know if he meant to obviously start at the back in race 1, but either way, obviously being at the back, that's actually helped him, because he could work his way up in race 1, have no ballast for race 2, then be on the soft tyres again and work his way even more, because the soft tyres seem to be so much faster around here. Coming in towards Old Hall corner, always as Cam Brewster there, trying to get up the inside like his teammate did last time around, but Hartley defends. Bit of contact between the two, as now Brewster actually, he needs to look out. He's got Thomas Vag up. Oh, Thomas Vag, he went off with this corner in the previous race, manages to hold on to it this time, but certainly getting quite wiggly there through Denton's.
Yeah, easily done. Oulton Park is such a tricky circuit, and well, these guys are so competitive. They're pushing the limits as much as they possibly can to extract the most they possibly can out of the car, and sometimes you do get a couple of scary moments, and sometimes even more than, as we looked over the course of race one. A couple of people overstepping the mark a little bit too much for what their car could handle. We ticked through a third of the race through at lap 5 of 15, and the top two, Dan Cowell, Matt Richards, only separated by 3/4 of a second. The fight for the top 5, the fight for the podium racing on as well. Absolutely insane stuff. And well, it must be said, if I was Herlock at the moment, I'd be saying, Cal, Richards, get into a fight with each other and bring me and Redshaw into contention, because there he is. He's made the move on Redshaw already up onto the podium. 2.5 seconds now is the gap to two leaders who are not going to back down easy.
Yeah, he's absolutely flying, is the RSR driver, Dan Herlock, already up onto the podium. Remember, he started down, it was about 13th place he started, up 10 places therefore. That's 2 positions a lap on average in the first 5 laps of this race. Amazing scenes. As you say, 2 seconds to Matt Richards, who is on some pretty heavy ballast, of course, finishing 4th in the previous race. Dan Kell finishing 3rd will have a little bit more, so this could actually work out pretty well. I'm sure Herlock is going to catch those 2 seconds very, very quickly, just on pace alone, and then he'll have to find a way through, as we're obviously continuing to see this long train of cars inside the top 10. The one at the front there, the rocket car, is McGregor in that 5th place. He's got Wilson in behind, his teammate John Munro in 7th place, and then Thomas O'Leary just in behind. So these are all the big names up towards the front of the championship as well. And then they know these positions are all too important if they want to be contending as we get towards the final races of the season.
Yeah, and it's times like these where you really show your mettle. It's really where you rise above the occasion and show that you're a great driver, not just a good one, and why you deserve to be in contention for the championship. There's a little bit of a sideways move from the BMW of Wilson. A little bit further back, Jack Nicholls, after going wide at turn 3, I think, over the course of race 1, finds himself in the points. Thomas Vac as well, after a poor showing in race 1, is on the fight back in the RSR 66 machine. Jack Nicholls tries to follow him through as well. That's the move on Hartley. Nicholls has got the up and under and the drag race. This is also a good little fight for 6th. Callum Wilson demoted to 7th. However, a nice little switchback potentially fights up and down.
Yes, certainly is. There's Jack Nicholls there, and he's getting involved with Hartley, who's just losing some places so far this race. Come back to Wilson, who has just lost that place to Munro. So the 2 rocket cars now following each other in 5th and 6th place. But is Wilson going to come back in towards the hairpin? Has half a think about it. Tries to go to the inside and make Munro go offline a little bit, but it doesn't look like it's going to work for now. So the rocket cars having a bit of a better day today. At least in this second race of the season. And look at the front. This is Dan Kell, and who's closed up behind? First of all, Matt Richards, but second of all, Dan Herlock. He's caught about 1.5 seconds or so in 1 lap. He is absolutely flying. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dan Herlock winning this race a little bit later, but he's got to get through the 2 cars ahead of him.
And, well, 2 drivers I probably would put last on my list as drivers to find a way past. The championship leader, of course, of Matt Richards, and Dan Kell on his day is a phenomenal driver. I mean, he's a phenomenal driver full stop, but especially when he's in the lead of a race, especially when he's got track position. Matt Richards under a little bit of pressure from Herlock, who's trying to get the up and under and not quite able to through Lodge Corner. Matt Richards now in a position where he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He's fighting for the lead, but he's defending for second. Herlock now to the left-hand side. It's the long way round through turn number 1. He's got the agility, he's got the speed, puts his foot down, narrowly misses out, but that fight for second continues.
As he does in towards Denton's huge defensive manoeuvre there from Richards. That's going to slow him down slightly through Cascades, being a bit tighter on the entry. Is Herlock going to get the run? It looks like he is. Around the outside, it's going to have to be in towards the hairpin. That's not where you want to be, but he's got so much more grip. Brakes much later. Richards is blocked a bit by Dan Kell. As round the outside, Herlock goes. They continue to be side by side, but actually, Matt Richards now is going to have half a look almost to defend. He's having to attack here for the race lead. Dan Kell coming towards Hislops, leading the way, and somehow they remain in the same order. But this is awesome stuff, and just shows you even if you're faster, you have to find a way through.
You do, and well, you can see Herlock is pushing the limits. 3 drivers all in contention, and it's going to be non-stop. We're into the second half of race 2 now, and well, this fighting is nowhere near complete. It's going to be race long from now until the checker flag. and I'm sure it's going to continue over the course of race 3 as well for good measure. Kell doing a brilliant job of retaining that lead. Richards and Herlock though in hot pursuit, and look at Herlock, the way he's driving, how much slip angle he's getting through the corners. He's just powering the car through, and it's working for him, because look at the exit he's now got out of Lodge Corner, already putting Richards back on the defensive.
And it's actually working out pretty well so far for Matt Richards with this defensive manoeuvre, because Herlock just can't seem to find a way through. Dankel, I think, is actually helping Richards in a couple of places. You see sort of moving over to the side to give Richards that situation, but that's because Kell knows if Herlock gets through, he is under massive attack in these last few laps. Herlock, they're pushing it a bit too much as well in towards Cascades. Yeah, probably over pushing the car at this moment in time. If he calms down a little bit, maybe that will help, but being aggressive so far is what's got him into this position. Of course, we do have the hybrid system to play, using it down these straights. It looks like there's a bit in place here for Herlock, but once again has to sit behind.
He does. How long is he going to be content? Well, I suppose he's not ever going to be content with sitting behind, but how long until he goes for a desperate move, gets a little bit too aggressive potentially? Could we see a couple of drivers losing their heads, succumbing to desperation and going for a send like that? He's pushing the limits over the curb. Oh my goodness me, in towards Drew, as that was... Well, that's aggressive. These guys are getting their elbows out. A bit of a slide there from both cars. Matt Richards making a bit of a mistake, forcing him to go on the defensive into Lodge. Now to the outside once again. Herlock gets the squeeze. He's having to go the long way around once again, rotating the rear end of the car to point him straight. Dan Caldo is going to be loving this. While these guys are fighting, he's got clear track. He can try and build a gap.
Oh, this is awesome battles for this second place. Round the outside of Old Hall's going to have to do once again, but no, Herlock has to back out of it. There's also some awesome battles in behind. We've got John Munro going side by side with Lewis Redshaw. Munro's got his way through his teammate, and now he's trying to get Redshaw down in towards Cascades for that 4th place, and it looks like he's made it stick as Herlock goes off once again for second. So loads of battles, both Herlock and Munro up 10 places already this race, and really just showing you how the option compounds are working, because I believe Munro is on them as well. Awesome scenes here at Oulton Park, and look at the battles just in behind. Wilson now, this is with McGregor doing another defensive drive. Look at all the cars stacked up behind.
He's really good at it. He's getting a lot of defensive experience. That's Willis, I think, to the inside of Sovic between his loops. That was millimetres from the barrier, I think, from Sovic and Willis. It's a good attempt, but, well, no cigar for him there. Stephen Haley now onto the back of him. Had to tap the brakes ever so slightly as to avoid running into the rear end of Willis, and now he's lost a bit of momentum. That is going to invite Brewster to have a bit of a look.
Oh.
Drew, that's wide. That's the last thing you want to see. Willis says thank you very much, and Sovic is slow.
I thought he was going to be going off the track, but he's managed to hold it on. However, there's that 3 cars going down the inside of Cervic, pretty much in towards one car. Actually, no, Cervic's there on the outside. He's trying to hold on to it through Lodge and up through Dearly, as we're getting Thomas Vack and Jack Nichols trying to get involved in the background. 5 cars all following each other, 5 laps remaining as well here for the second race of the evening at Oulton Park. Nichols dives it up the inside, manages to make through Cervic, probably squeezes him a bit wide there as well. Cervic to be having to hold on in defence from Thomas Vack behind, and it just shows you how aggressive you have to be to make these moves stick. You have to be assertive and just show your position on the track. Here is Thomas O'Leary now trying to find his way through Wilson. He's having a pretty solid day too.
He is indeed. He's doing a really good job making up places in both races and showing some good pace as well, which is always most important, and, well, potentially still more to come for the evening. Final third of this race, lap 11 of 15 here at Oulton Park Island, and, well, we're going to take a look as to how things happen. This is Matt Richards with Herlock to his left-hand side. A little bit of contact sent him sideways. He did a really good job to hang on to that, to be fair, Cam, because when you get that sideways, specifically at a corner where it is as punishing as that on the exit, it's so easy to just become a passenger in the car. And in all fairness to them, great car control to keep the cars under wraps, but it's not going to stop them from fighting. They are not shying away from this.
Round the outside, Dan Herlock for second place. Richards is going to squeeze him out onto the AstroTurf. Side by side they come up the hill. Hybrid in place, I'm sure. And it looks like Herlock is going to be finally taking that second position. He had to work for it. So many contacts with Matt Richards, and now the win is in sight as well. Already catching up to Dan Kell in pretty much one corner, up towards Denton's through Cascades. And it'll be the straight and the island hairpin as well. That's going to be the all-important overtaking place. I wonder if Herlock's going to go for it straight away. Yes, Yes, he is on the exit already. Kell defends to the inside, down towards the hairpin. Is Herlock going to go around the outside? Yes, he's going to try it. Kell's going to squeeze him out wide to try and get Matt Richards to come in. 3 wide almost on the exit. It's going to be, as we now see it, Dan Herlock. We're trying to find a way through. He's been doing it for 12 laps so far. Just one more position it will be for the race lead around Hislop's. He's going to take the lead under the brakes, slides his way through, but he somehow holds on to it.
I don't know how. He was meters away, less than centimetres, millimetres away from the barrier there, sent in deep, and Dan Kell almost looked to go for the switchback. Immediately under pressure though, Dan Kell is not letting him breathe. He's being absolutely unrelenting, and he's made his way back into the race lead. 4 cars now nose to tail. Kell, Herlock, Richards and Munro with only 3 laps left to go. Twitches between all 4 of them off the exit of Druids, and now to the inside. Dan Kell forced to defend. 2 wide, 2 deep as Munro goes for the podium. Richards under a little bit of pressure. Herlock the long way round, can't quite keep his foot in, and now we might see him under a bit of pressure, but Dan Kell immediately forced to go defensive. Hybrid at play.
And Herlock once again, I think he saves it out to this final corner. Kell would have used it up the straight to the water tower to get back that first place. But now Herlock goes to the front once again. Can he pull away? He needs to, because in behind, here comes Matt Richards for second place. He gets past Dan Kell. Kell from first to third in just a couple of corners, and he needs to look out because John Munro, in the same way Herlock has made his way through, Munro has done the same this race, and just 2.5 laps remain for this second race of the evening. Round the outside, Munro tries it at the hairpin. Can he find the way through? No, he can't, but top 4 continue to battle. Awesome racing. I know there's a bit of contact, but that's how aggressive you have to be around Oulton Park.
You do. It's in all fairness, there's a little bit of rubbing, but it's not been sort of anyone spinning out or any drastic things like that. It's more just door to door, a little bit of argy-bargy, rubbing his racing sort of thing. No harm done, and we're absolutely loving this. There's no malice intended. These guys are just absolutely on the limit, giving it their all lap after lap after lap. Herlock now though, with his sheer pace, with the softer compounded tyres, has been able to stretch the advantage now nearly onto a second. It's flirting on the edge there with that. And now Dan Kell, unfortunately, after what was a really good pace, might have just pushed a little bit too hard and has run out of steam. John Munro around the outside. He's tried it on already this lap, but he's done it around the outside of Lodge, kept his foot in. The only thing with that, Cam, is that if you can keep it there, immediately you have to go to the outside of turn 1. Unfortunately for John Murray, it's the worst case scenario because Dan Kell's got the speed to get up into third. There's Herlock though. I have to say, I'm really impressed with his pace. It just must be said, where was this in qualifying?
Yeah, I don't know if he had a penalty. I have to try and check the penalty list. Maybe he had something from that, because his pace today has been absolutely ridiculous. Here comes O'Leary. What a move. They'll be up the inside of Cascades. Get past Ross McGregor. McGregor onto the grass a bit as well, as in behind comes Ben Willis, who's having one of the best rounds we've seen so far this season, all the way round the outside. Off Ross McGregor. It's going to be a bit of contact. That's going to help him. And also his teammate, Cam Brewster, now is going to get the run up towards the hill, down now in towards Hislop. So breaking around the outside seems to be very good today. Might be blocked off a bit by his teammate though, side by side in towards the chicane. McGregor's going to push him onto the grass. Can Brewster hold on to that position? He'll be 9th place if he can get past, but no, he can't, as McGregor somehow holds on to that one.
Yeah, somehow. He's really been driving on the limit for the entire evening, in all fairness. How he's gotten away with half the stuff he has, I have absolutely no clue. Cam Brewster on the back of McGregor, who's pushing tooth and nail in order to defend each and every single position that he's got. And now he's to the left-hand side, the BMW, the 39 machine, trying to go the long way around. Gets the switch back, he gets the later apex, but is it enough oomph up the crest now to start the pit straight? He's now managed to get a little bit of an overlap, maybe a bit of hybrid deployment to start the final lap of the race. The fight for ninth definitely raging on quite nicely, and well, around the outside, Slim Shady start from McGregor, unfortunately not been able to keep it, and Nichols says thank you very much. A great recovery for Nichols to be inside the top 10.
So crazy how he can so easily almost hold on to the places, but at the same time, if you just make one small mistake, as Stephen McGregor, you end up losing 2 places just like that. It's so easy to lose them. As we're on to the final lap already, in towards the hairpin, here comes Thomas Vac around the outside of McGregor as well. I think McGregor's going to be able to hold on to this one. Dan Herlock at the front, 3.5 seconds he's managed to pull away. Such a huge pace advantage on those option tyres, which just shows you how quick they are, and there's a lot of the top drivers actually on the options for the final races. Willis there is making some moves up into 7th place ahead of O'Leary, and what a race it's been for the second race of the evening. Herlock has made his way through to first place. Munro in behind for third place as well, just showing you how the strategy can work out. But just a few corners to go of this race before we see the leaders come across the line to finish what has been a very hectic race, and just showing you how the racecraft is so important in TCUK. And across the line, it's going to be Dan Herlock to take victory, Matt Richards in second place, Munro in third, Dan Kell in fourth, Redshaw from the pole drops down into fifth place, Callum Wilson in sixth. We didn't really talk about him too much this race. Ben Willis will take seventh place, O'Leary, Brewster and Nichols will round out your top 10. And Zach, that was a very entertaining race, and that is basically why we love this format at TCUK. You get that sort of weight ballast coming into effect. The drivers at the front are a bit slower, and it just brings in all this action.
It does. It's just a perfect recipe. All the variables considered, all the competitiveness of the drivers, and it's resulted in a crazy finishing order like this one.
Yeah, Dan Herlock there taking victory from Matt Richards, with John Munro rounding out the podium. A much better day for John Munro than he had last time out at Thruxton. Dan Kell will be disappointed to drop off the podium, but still a solid fourth place from him. Lewis Redshaw in fifth, Callum Wilson sixth, Ben Willis, Thomas O'Leary and Cam Brewster had an awesome battle there at the end for 7th, 8th and 9th and 10th place. Jack Nichols, that is a lot better from him so far this season. 11th place, Ross McGregor. Once again, I think he's going to be disappointed. He's had a couple of good opportunities, but has dropped down at the end of both the first two races this evening. Thomas Frack in 12th place, Stephen Haley in 13th, Hartley 14th, Callum Cripps, unfortunately after that off at turn 1, ends up in 15th place. Garside, Cervic, Lock round out your top 18 with Leppit and Dowman inside your top 20. After 15 laps here at Oulton Park, and on the final page we've got Morby, Hilton, Spooner before the DNFs of Mitchell. That's a double DNF from Mitchell, and also Scott Morris. That's not the way they would have wanted their evening to go. But as ever, we got the reverse grid race coming up. Here is the spinny wheel, and let's see, is it P6, is it P12, is it somewhere in between? That is the reverse grid pole, and it's going to be P9. We've had that before this season, so the position 9 will now be flipped around to pole position for the final race of the evening, which will be coming your way in a few minutes' time. So we'll be back for the final race of the evening here at Oulton Park. Welcome back to the third race of the evening here at Oulton Park for TCUK 2023. The drivers are gridding up for the reverse grid race. Just before we went to the break, we found out it was going to be the top 9 that would be reversed from the result of the previous race. And that is always an interesting one because the ballast remains from the result from last time, but now it's flipped. So the drivers with more ballast will now be going back into the mid-pack, and it's going to be Cam Brewster from your pole position, of course, with that P9 ballast. So he's going to be loving that one. So 15 kilos of ballast from him, and it's going to be working its way all the way up to Dan Herlock. There will be starting 9th with 75 kilos. So that's going to be a lot more difficult for those faster drivers to come through this race, and of course come back from that one. We do have some softer option tyres though from some of the big names. We'll get to that in a moment. Cam Brewster takes you away from pole position. Thomas O'Leary in second place. Willis, best start of the season, in third. Callum Wilson in 4th place. Definitely the reverse grid race bringing some different names, which is what we like to see. Redshaw and Kell there on your 3rd row, with Munro and Richards rounding out your top 8. But of course, we go all the way up to Dan Hurlock, so he's going to have the maximum ballast, but starting in 9th place. That's going to be difficult from him. Jack Nicholls just missed out on the reverse grid pole. In 10th place, McGregor and Thomas Vack inside your top 12. Stephen Haley, Louis Hartley inside your top 14. They've been having a good ding-dong. They've been side-by-side pretty much all evening. Cripps and Garside 15th and 16th. Cripps not making too many moves in that previous race. Cervic in 17th, Adam Lock in 18th. And then Leppit and Dowman round out your top 20 for your 25 drives today. Towards the back, we've got Morby, Hilton, Spooner, before we see the drivers who've DNF both races so far of Luke Mitchell in 24th place. Then it should be Scott Morris, yes, in 25th. Rounding out your final drivers in Zach. It's certainly been a hectic evening of action, I should say, and we've just got one more race left. Any predictions, especially with the faster drivers like Hurlock now going back into the pack with all the ballast?
Oh no, absolutely no predictions, because it's just you can't, you absolutely cannot. I mean, you can make an educated guess, but you can't predict anything. I mean, Dan Kell looks quick, Monroe, Richards, Hurlock, they all look very, very quick, and obviously Richards is on the option, so potentially he could find his way flying up the field, but of course he has got quite a bit of ballast on board as well. So there is a lot of variables in this championship with this format, and obviously, you know, disaster is around every corner. You've got to be so careful. Things can go incredibly your way, incredibly not your way, and it is just a roller coaster. So absolutely no predictions, but I know for sure that we're going to have an action-packed 15 laps of racing action, because race 1 and 2 were sort of the best that we could ask for from a racing standpoint. Up in the commentary booth, they're some of the most enjoyable types of racing to commentate on, to bring the action to, because it's just action. No matter where you look, there's an overtake, there's a fight for somewhere, and yeah, really looking forward to seeing how we round off the evening. We'll line up on the grid, and well, we'll find out who comes out on top.
And Bruce has certainly been involved with the action today, but can he finish off his evening well? The lowest ballast out of everyone around him, 15 laps to go. He starts from the pole position today. He's got his teammate Ben Willis directly behind him. He's got Thomas O'Leary side by side on the front row of the grid. Who gets the best start? Looks like it's actually going to be Ben Willis from 3rd place, but can he make it count? Maybe not, as we come up towards the first corner. Side 3 wide even as we come in towards Old Hall. There's side by side Dan Kell on the outside. We got this huge crash there. That's going to be Wilson sent off into the barriers. He's going to be dropping down the way. Redshaw holds on into 3rd place, down the inside for the lead actually. Is that going to be Thomas O'Leary? Yes, it is, up the inside, as here comes Redshaw for 2nd place as well, down in towards the island hairpin. All sorts of action happening at the start. We get Dan Kell coming up into 4th place in behind.
He's up 2 places, and he's trying to go the outside of Cam Brewster, not quite able to. Actually, that's on Willis, I should have said. There was Jack Nicholls getting a little bit out of shape. He's actually gone round, I think. He's tumbled his way long outside the top 10, outside the top 20, and out of contention of race number 3. Outside line for Dan Kell, though. Beautiful move relative to Willis. He's kept his foot in. Now the inside for the next right-hander, though. The BMW tries to chuck the move to the inside. John Monroe as well, looming in the background, looming fierce, trying to move his way inside the top 5. We've got 2 wide, I think 3 or 4 times deep in the background as well, as we rise our way up in now towards Druids. I think they all settle themselves down ever so slightly. Callum Cripps, though, with a poor start, trying to work his way back forward.
Yeah, he's had a difficult evening, but it's going to be up the inside there. Fridges, oh, huge off there. Is that Mitchell? Or is it Nicholls? One of the two. King's Racing is Mitchell. He's had 2 DNFs already. This might turn into 3. That was so fast. I'm surprised his car is still going. But we come up towards the start-finish straight and in towards the first corner. Old Hall side by side is going to be in the braking zone there for McGregor, I should say, coming through turn 1. Can't quite get through Richards, but the battles continue as ever, and it's so frantic here at the start. Everyone knows that's the best time to make places.
They do indeed. It's, well, you've just got to make the most, but as I say, before the field starts to spread, before the gaps become too wide for you to close, make that track position up and put yourself in the best position possible. But also, it's a fine margin. It's a tightrope of a golden mean. Aggression versus rationality. How much you can essentially get away with before it becomes too much from a standards point of view. So you do have to be very, very careful not to end your or someone else's race. But I think these guys are on the limit just about. A little bit twitchy though from around the outside. That's against Phil Morby. So Sovic goes to the outside, just about managing to hang on for now. But a poor run through the right hand and might well see him under pressure from behind. And that's the dynamic that we've been seeing all evening on Cam, is drivers fighting in trains, and if you're attacking and you get a poor exit, the drivers behind are definitely going to be licking their lips because that's their golden opportunity to find a way past.
Yeah, it's such actually momentum based. Oh, it's all the drivers off onto the grass. There's about 3 or 4 drivers there dipping wheels. As we're seeing is that Lockyer defending down the inside. Scott Morris had a couple of DNFs, but he's working his way up this race so far quite nicely up in towards P18. But yeah, it's certainly a momentum based style of racing. If you get a bad exit out of the corner, everyone just starts to pounce behind you. With them coming at the full speed is certainly a difficult one actually for the drivers to hold onto that one as Morris completes that move in behind. Definitely easy to go up and down the places if you're not too careful. Matt Richards coming in towards the hairpin, trying to find his way through John Munro. These two will be battling all night. That's a bit wide though from Munro. His teammate McGregor's probably going to be getting past. His up ahead is that Dan Kell, side by side, coming towards Hislop chicane. Can he get down the inside? Is Cam Brewster going to be holding on to third place? Dan Kell keeps it there on the inside. Be the outside again. If he can hold it, it will turn into the inside for the third apex of the chicane, and he's made it stick. Third place. Nice move, Dan Kell.
Absolutely, he's been no stranger to good moves all evening long, and that is a prime example of it. Confident and brave at the same time. He knew his abilities, he knew the grip of the car, and he knew that he could trust Cam Brewster to give him the space, and that is the racing we like to see. Onto the podium, of course, and the fight for the lead is not too far away either. This is the fight though for the fringes of the top 10. Callum Cripps, after what has been a fairly successful evening of racing, in all fairness to him, he showed some good pace, trying to get himself back into the top 10 after a poor start, and that's what we're talking about. Look at the rotation that drivers get in behind. That is, of course, at Hartley, just getting the up and under, getting the drive, putting their foot down, and it's insane what you can do with a better exit cam.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. And also, of course, you have the hybrid deployment as well. If you do a couple of seconds of that, just get the extra momentum and you really start flying past these drivers. As these points are, of course, still important. Top 15 get points, and this is what we're looking out for. Nothing to look out for ahead in terms of reverse grid places. This is the final race of the evening, so you just need to absolutely go for it. That's a huge run there, actually, for Garside coming in towards the hairpin. Oh no! He goes onto the grass. It's Skittles coming in towards the hairpin. He collects. Is that I'm trying to see who that is? One of the VCO cars. That might be Wilson trying to get back. And unfortunately, further contact down in the field, and absolutely seems no. It's Cripps unfortunately getting involved in that one. That was not a clean move from Garside by any means.
Absolutely not, and well, it did end in disaster with drivers going off again after Thruxton. Aidan Millworth had an absolute field day cycling through all the incidents. I think it might be something in that vein after today as well. So yeah, we pay our respects to the stewards who have to deal with the flux of incidents that come their way, because yeah, it's a tough job in sim racing, but for the most part it's been very, very clean, very, very respectful. Just sometimes when you're fighting this hard at this level, this competition, it's just so easy to get emotions get the better of you. Small mistakes start to creep in, and unfortunately it's that chain reaction that rolls into each other, that domino effect that just leads to bigger and bigger crashes, like the one that we just saw there. Following on this fight though, Thomas O'Leary, Lewis Redshaw, who's already come out on top in a race today, all the way back in race 1, and it's not a fluke at all, Cam, because once again he's fighting for the lead.
Certainly is coming into that all-important hairpin. This is where you're looking to make the overtakes today, but of course, the rest of the track still needs to be completed, and Redshaw is just half a second back. O'Leary took the lead quite nicely there at the beginning of the race, but I think Redshaw is going to be coming from... Oh, there's been further contact. Garside and Vac once again in the hairpin, 2 laps in a row. They make contact there. I wonder what happened this time around. Last time it was Garside on the grass in the braking zone, but let's come back to that one. Cripps here through the chicane, and he's going to be having Adam Locke there going past, and he's now going to have Scott Morris, who's having a solid drive today, up in P16, struggled in the first 2 races, but almost into the points in this third race.
Wow, really impressive stuff. And well, after what has been a tough evening, it'd be a great way to round things off, just to scrape your way into the points, because a singular point, it's one man's trash, another man's treasure. It means different things to different people. And for Morris, after what has been a pretty tough evening, tough season potentially as well, to scrape a point would be huge. This is what happened to Garside, and he just took too much of the track, broke on the grass, unsettled the rear end, and well, absolute strike this was, just smack bam into the side of the RSR car. That's whack, I think. And then it's just, it happened basically, Cam. You can't put anything, any blame other than Garside in that situation. But it wasn't malicious. It was just an easy mistake to make.
Dan Kell DNF as well. Dan Kell, one of the championship contenders, had such a strong race. He's DNF from the race. What on earth has happened here on this previous lap at Oulton Park? Garside DNF, Thomas Vack to the back, and now Dan Kell. Absolute scenes at Oulton Park, and that was such a Skittles moment from Garside. Obviously, Dan Kell was way ahead of that, so it must have been a separate incident, and he's really going to struggle in the championship. He's already missed a round or two, and obviously looking to try and get further up today with some solid performances, but unfortunately that is not going to be coming his way. Just shows you how everything can bite around here if things just start going against you. But at the moment, it's going for Thomas O'Leary, but Redshaw is getting closer and closer, coming towards the 7th lap of the race.
Yeah, approaching the halfway mark of the final race of the evening, and this is a brilliant fight for the lead. Well, we're going to see what happened to Dan Kell. Was it of his own volition? And it was an easy mistake. Was it?
I was going to say that looks kind of technical issues related. It almost looks, because he was sort of going into it fine, then kind of just went straight. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a technical issue there for Kell, which is such a shame in a really good place, of course, challenging for the podium. Into that same corner, though, it's going to be Scott Morris. He's dropped down a couple of places, actually. Spoon and Mitchell, I think, have got past him. But Surt always has all over the grass there for Spooner, coming up towards the island chicane, or island hairpin, I should say. But yes, certainly showing you how things can easily change around here, especially when you race on, in sim racing. Things can happen just like they do in real life with mechanical failures.
Yeah, it is the equivalent of your engine blowing up, of your gearbox going. So it does happen. Scott Morris as well was on the fringes of points. Now he's trying to move his way back into 17th place. Bit of contact between himself and Spooner, and he's not been able to quite find his way through as of yet. But he's still got half the race left to go. Plenty of opportunities to come. And unfortunately, a lot of bad luck for, unfortunately, quite a lot of people as well at the same time. So really has been a roller coaster of emotions. Scott Morris finds his way to the inside and, well, way too deep into Druids.
Yeah, that is not going to be helping his race as another few drivers go past. And from the fringes of the points is P22. More drivers off into the grass, coming in towards Lodge. That's Callum Wilson. Of course, not had the day that he wanted either, as the yellow flags continue to come out in sector 3. And as Dowman, he's had such a difficult season so far, and this isn't going to be helping it, taking out the advertising boards. It's actually, just coming into the final corner. That's quite early, so I wonder if there's some contact that didn't quite help him into that corner, as we saw obviously with Garside in a similar way, going off way before. Here's Dowman coming towards the final corner, and he's going to have, that's so much Vack coming in behind, and both onto the grass defending. He sort of defended, but Vack was already up the inside and just got turned into the fence, but he sort of helped that himself.
Yeah, obviously he wouldn't have spun if Vack wasn't alongside him, so definitely more room to have been given from Sam Dowan. Also just spoken to Dan Kell, just asking if it was his wheel that died. Has had a couple of issues with it coming into tonight, was just praying that it would be okay. It has been for the majority of the evening. Had an issue at turn 1, had an issue at turn 2, and then completely been him off through the cascade, which is why we see one of our lead runners now out of contention and out of the final race of the evening. So a big shame, it must be said, for Dan Kell, because again, that's something that's completely out of his control.
Yeah, big shame. Big shame, especially as he's missed. Yeah, he missed round 1 and round 3, so this was only a second round of the season, so really needed those points. As we're seeing Redshaw back in second place, he's actually dropped off a little bit from Thomas O'Leary at the front. O'Leary's doing such a great job. there. Lap 9 of 15 as it stands. Matt Richards not too far behind. Scott Servig there is going to be getting up past Ben Willis. Ben Willis had such a strong, obviously, second race there. Had an amazing starting position, but he's just been going back and back, unfortunately, this race. And is now down to P11, as I think Servig's having a few issues there. Hopefully he can come back. Yes, he does. And he keeps on in that 10th place.
He does. He's had, again, similar to most, to be fair, a roller coaster of an evening, up and downs, and, well, yeah, I guess that is just sort of the racing that this format sort of promotes, I suppose, is that roller coaster of emotion. Sometimes you have a really good one, sometimes you have a really poor one, and straight away you can bounce back and have a really good one again, like has been the case, I suppose, with Herlock fighting his way back through the field throughout the few races, even being able to take himself a win in race 2 after, starting last for race 1. Stephen Haley late on the brakes as well, on the rear end of Cam Brewster for 5th place. This rages on into the final third of the final race. Brewster under a little bit of pressure, was our pole man, and well, now he's under threat from losing the top 5.
Yeah, just showing you how the format can work for you, but then you do have to keep it going. Unfortunately, he has been dropping down the way, even though he's actually got less ballast than the cars ahead, which just shows you the speed of the drivers ahead, and yeah, just how it's not all about the ballast here in TCUK. Coming up towards the hairpin note, they've slightly spread out, but as ever, you can proper dive down the inside here if you find a way through. Haley there in that 6th place has to sit there for now. Herlock is looking still for a solid result from that 9th place. Of course, got dropped back, from 7th place. Got dropped back to 9th at the start. He's already made up those 2 places. Let's see if he can get any more in the final 5 laps of the race. But as ever, the sort of overtakes become a bit harder the longer the race goes on, because everyone sort of settles in, the gaps spread out a bit. Then you have to try and find the momentum again, get aggressive once more. Difficult to do so, but I think especially in his second race, he shows that he can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about just keeping your composure, staying calm, and making the most of the decisions that come your way. Obviously, you're driving these cars as quick as you can, and split-second decisions are so difficult to make, and there's always hindsight thinking, should have backed out that one, should have gone for that one. But the great drivers will just go with their gut instinct, go for those moves if they need to, back out those moves if they need to, sort of thing. So just trying to keep their composure, keep their focus, especially when their adrenaline is running as high as it is, because they've had already 2 races and the majority of race 3 also in this one. So yeah, the tension is high. They're going to be feeling a little bit tired, mentally fatigued as well, just to add on top of things. But we've got to suppress those emotions and drive purely on gut instinct and just focus on the racetrack, hitting those apexes, making those moves, closing those gaps, specifically when you've got fights as close as this one. 1, 2 and 3, O'Leary, Redshaw and Richards, and now nose to tail with McGregor not a million miles away either, Cam.
Yeah, they've really started to close up. I wonder if O'Leary's made a mistake, or if this maybe is just a natural way with the tyre wear, something like that. We know that Richards has got those option compound tyres. Redshaw certainly doesn't, because he used them in the first race. And I'm trying to see where Thomas O'Leary is going. He's on the prime tyres as well, so it definitely is the faster drivers coming in behind. But let's see, in towards Lodge Corner now. Redshaw a little bit deep there, trying to get a better exit than O'Leary, coming up towards the start-finish line. Richards is looking racy, coming towards turn 1, all up against the pit wall, down the inside, in towards Old Hall Corner, and second place is going to be for your championship leader, the number 1 reigning champion as well, side by side on the exit, as Redshaw comes back to take that second place. Nice battles there. Richards dives it up the inside, in towards Cascades, all locked up on the brakes, slides it on the exit as well, but he continues side by side.
Wow, great racing this is, completely on the limit as well. They're nose to nose as they head onto the brakes for the hairpin. Matt Richards a little bit wide, he's a little bit too wide as well, not able to get that rotation, not able to get his foot down either. So now McGregor is on the scene, and now we've got 4 phenomenal drivers battling for the race lead with just 3 and a bit laps left to go. Thomas Fack as well, moving his way up into 18th through the Cascades, and moves his way past Spooner. But brilliant battling going on. It's on the limit. It's so respectful as well at the same time. And honestly, I'm always having to dart away from my screen at how tight this has been. However, Willis finds the barrier quite easily. I think he thinks that's invisible, but it's not.
Yeah, there's definitely a barrier. I think it's just because the angle that we're looking at it, for some reason you can't see, but there is a barrier there. And Ben Willis, that's so awkward. The car going off there of Leppit, and fortunately no crash comes to that, but Willis, yeah, just completely missing that chicane. As we come to start lap 13, 3 laps to go here of the evening at Oulton Park. The third race is coming towards an end. Thomas O'Leary leading the way, Redshaw in second, and Richards in that third place. They're battling hard. Richards gets a really good run up towards Denton's. He's going to go to the inside. That will turn to the outside now for Cascades. He's going to get a bit of a switch back here, try and get a better straight exit. Looks like he's done so, but actually Redshaw managed to hold the gap, and we have to look in behind. Ross McGregor, after defending all evening, is now finally attacking in that 4th place.
Yeah, now he's got to do the roles reversed, and he's done plenty of looking backwards. Now he's got to look forwards and, well, extract what experience he can to fight his way onto the podium. He's fought tooth and nail for it before. Unfortunately, I don't think he's actually been able to make it stick on the podium so far this evening. So he's looking to maybe see if attacking for the podium works a little bit better than defending for it. And race 3 is a perfect opportunity to do so. However, opportunities are going to run thin as the laps tick down, as corners tick by. They run out of opportunities to do so. So O'Leary, while right now he has commanded the lead, one mistake and Redshaw will be all over him.
Now, and I wonder if that is a bit of a mistake. Actually, come through Druids. He didn't get the best run. Redshaw to the outside of Lodge, and a huge dive on the brakes as well. O'Leary defending on the inside. There, oh, look at Richards though. He gets a better exit. It's going to be 3 wide, potentially coming towards the first corner at Old Hall. Richards once again goes all up against the pit wall. He manages to keep it out of it though, up the inside. He tried this last time, and Redshaw got the switchback, but Richards actually covers him off well. This time O'Leary pulls away at the front, as we now see McGregor trying to also get involved in this action, but it's Richards up into second.
Done a great job, the championship leader, trying to make the most of this evening. Not yet been able to take to the top step, and well, he might be able to do that right now. Matt Richards is such a phenomenal driver, and well, there's a reason that he's as successful as he is. O'Leary, however, has just been on top form in this race. However, Matt Richards has now got a really good run, and he's got clear sight of the race leader. Redshaw and McGregor, though, have to keep that pressure on. He cannot allow the top 2 to get away onto the penultimate lap of this race. Through his locks for the second to last time, O'Leary has dealt with the pressure up until this point, but that's with them fighting for second in behind. And now I think he's under direct threat from Matt Richards.
Yeah, it certainly is, and this could be a race victory as here comes McGregor up through Water Tower. He's made it through into that 3rd place. Redshaw goes down to 4th, and that is 2 places lost for Redshaw in a matter of a lap, and that is not where Redshaw would have wanted to be, as he was looking for, obviously, this race win just a couple of laps ago. We come on to the final lap, and look how close Richards is. He might have this on O'Leary. Can O'Leary defend for one more lap? Just a few kilometres to go, and he will have a race victory in TCUK, but in behind is the reigning champion and also the championship leader this season as well. Matt Richards gets the run out of Old Hall through Denton's. Is going to be in towards Cascades. Is there going to be any sort of switchback? Yes, there is. He goes wide. He tries to straighten it up, and this is going to be the potential move in towards the island hairpin. O'Leary defends to the inside, and he actually used a bit of push to pass there, pulls away, but Richards is going to get the break around the outside of the hairpin.
He tries it. Has he got the agility to do that though? No, he waits for the rotation, waits for that late apex. Thomas O'Leary, of course, running a tighter line through and might not have the run in towards his lobs, and he's not taking any chances, covering off as much of the track as he can. Here comes Matt Richards though to the left-hand side. He's late on the brakes, bit of contact as they run their way through. Barely on the track, chucks the move back to the inside, and O'Leary sails his way around the outside. Here comes McGregor on the scene as well. Nose to tail, the top 4 with a third of the lap left to go. O'Leary defends the lead.
That could have easily been a huge crash, but Richards fortunately left the space. But here comes McGregor. He overtook here last lap. Is he going to do it again? Round the outside of Druids. The pair, each of them, give each other space, and Richards holds on. But we've got to look out for Redshaw now, getting the run towards the final corner at Lodge. We still do not quite know how this podium is going to finish. Down the inside it goes for McGregor. He goes deep though, and Redshaw might come up the inside, but to come across the line and win the final race of the evening is going to be Thomas O'Leary, who takes victory of the 3rd race. here at Oulton Park. Matt Richards in second place. McGregor, he ends up in the pit wall. Did Redshaw push him into the pit wall? Is that some other issue for McGregor with 3 wide across the line further back? Brewster in 4th, Haley, Herlock and Cervic go 3 wide, and Hartley rounds out your top 8 in towards the final corner as well. Thomas Vag around the outside. It's going to have to be on Lepe. Oh, he hits the grass under brakes, and that is not going to be an overtake.
No, that's the furthest thing for Thomas Vag. Nice little slide, looks very, very cool. This is what happened to Ross McGregor on that last lap. So that is Herlock is inside? No, and then just hit into the pit wall. There's some form of irony in that one. Not really acceptable though, I don't know.
I would want to see that again from Redshaw's point of view, because he was squeezing Redshaw to the right initially, but then he pulled away. And then as you come up through Dilly, he's almost a kink left. So interesting to see how far Redshaw moved over. But that is for the stewards to work out, I'm sure, post-race. So Aidan Millward, good luck with that one. But that was a huge, huge hit. Here we go. Lewis Redshaw. So he's squeezed to the right-hand side. They move back to the left. Did he move across him? I'm not sure if he proper turned into him there on the second viewing, which is good because we don't like sort of malicious crashes like that. But certainly that is an awkward point. And because the car ahead, the rocket car, is a front-wheel drive car, any weight, any pressure on the rear end, and yeah, certainly they just get spun. Yeah, I mean, he does turn to the right a bit as well. So I definitely say that wasn't intentional, but just really, really unfortunate there. Because not only does McGregor miss out in 3rd place, but he doesn't even get 4th. He's going to be 22nd and a DNF.
Yeah. In all fairness, I will say that Redshaw probably shouldn't have put that car in the position in the first place on the inside of Lodge, but that's another thing entirely. He's on the podium, and well, a great way to round off race 3.
And here is your result. Thomas O'Leary, awesome result from him. He's going to be absolutely loving that one. Taking the victory today. Matt Richards in 2nd place. Lewis Redshaw getting that podium as we just saw. Cam Brewster, solid evening of action for him in 4th place. Stephen Haley as well, solid night in P5. Herlock, he should be happy with that one. From 25th in the first race, gets a win and a 6th place in race 2 and 3. 7th place, Scott Cervic. 8th is Hartley. Cripps in 9th. And John Munro, disappointing evening for him, rounding out your top 10. And I'm just checking, yeah, that was Thomas O'Leary's first win in TCUK, so congratulations to him. And in fact, he hadn't even had a podium until this round as well, so congratulations to O'Leary. Phil Morby in 11th place, Adam Locke in 12th, Callum Wilson in 13th place. Mitchell, after that huge crash, brings it home in 14th. Fair play to that. Leppert in 15th. Thomas Vack, he had a few ding-dongs today in 16th place. McGregor, unfortunately, DNF there in 17th place. And interesting numbers here, but Ben Willis, that'll be 18th place. Spooner in 19th, and Hilton rounding out your top 20, I guess that will be. Then Morris finally finishes a race in front of Sam Dowman. Dan Kell, Garside and Nichols will be your 3 DNFs to round out a very, very hectic evening of action. Zach, don't really know how to summarise that one, apart from the fact that that is just what TCUK is, and that's why we love to come here and race.
It is. What a great evening of action. That was so good and exactly what we like to see. Obviously, incidents and crashes and things, that's a given. It's motorsport. Those bad things happen. But 90% of that was just hard, fair, out-and-out racing. Pure passion as well. Just chucked into Oulton Park. And touring cars as well. What a perfect combination that we had. So much importance for the championship, for race wins, podiums, top 5s, all the way down the field. We had something going on, and these guys wanted it dearly. So yeah, a really good, successful evening of racing, and a great way to mark another round in the season.
And let's get a couple of interviews. We'll start off with Ross McGregor after that huge crash to finish race 3. We'll start with that, Ross. How was that crash for you? Obviously getting very tight there with Redshaw out of the final corner.
Yeah, well, 100% Redshaw's fault there. There's no other way to look at it. He turned right into me and spun me into the pit apron. So really disappointing, but I think I saw him do it something earlier, so not surprising. But, you know, the good thing is, like, I've been struggling with, I've not had, a proper sim setup over the last, 2 or 3 months. So, now I'm kind of settled into a new house. So I've got, a proper sim rig. Everything's set up properly, and I felt a bit a bit quicker tonight. So it's a shame to kind of end it like that. But otherwise it's like kind of struggled a little bit with setup. Front wheel drive just feels a little bit slower than rear wheel drive, especially towards the end of the race, just with tyre wear and stuff like that. But yeah, I think me and John need to practice. I think that'll help, and just get on top of the setup a little bit more. But yeah, it is what it is. I don't think we've really got any more time, so we'll just try our best and keep going.
And you, especially in race 1 and 2, you had more of a defensive style race. Just how was it with the pressure of everyone behind you? I mean, you're really holding on there in that first race. Yeah,
it was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. All you can really do is keep it to the inside of the hairpin, and then it's really difficult to get round outside. But at the end, I hadn't been watching the battery level, so the battery there was nothing left, so I didn't have any boost. So there's a couple of cars just drove straight past me in the last lap. So, but I kind of learned for race 2, but I still just dropped back because just lacking in pace. So it's a bit disappointing, but a podium would have helped a lot in that last race, but it was not to be.
Yeah, you certainly had a solid evening, and a bit of a shame about how the race 3 finished there, but hopefully we'll speak to you again soon and with a podium this time. So yeah, good luck for the future races.
Cheers, thank you.
Now we'll bring in Dan Herlock there. What an eventful evening you had, Dan. Of course, starting from the back in that race 1, you worked your way up through race 1 and 2 to finally get victory at the end of race 2. Then a pretty hectic race in race 3. Just how was your evening?
Yeah, obviously not ideal start, having driver issues with the graphics card, but managed to work my way up P13, and then race 2 was just a matter of using the softs grip and then eventually getting past the very stubborn Matt Richards. Race 3 I was a bit lucky with Haley in front of me, giving me slipstream so I could just stay ahead of the pack behind. But it was eventful, we'll say that much, yeah.
And I just wanted to get your opinion. Obviously, in that second race, you're on the softer compound tyres, and you were massively faster than the guys on the primes, and you were pretty much one of the only drivers on the softs as well. So just how was it when you sort of had that pace advantage? You were almost getting caught up behind the drivers ahead, because, I mean, your fastest that was on like a second and a half quicker than most of the other drivers.
Yeah, there was a massive grip advantage to have on the softs. I think I bet my best lap in that race by maybe half a second. And yeah, it was just making sure I was braking early enough when I was behind the car, because I could brake maybe a couple meters, couple feet later than everyone else at that time.
Yeah, and it's certainly a nice evening of action. So congratulations for your solid evening, and hopefully you have a little bit of a nicer, easier time of it in a few weeks' time.
Cheers.
And finally, we'll bring in Matt Richards, of course, reigning champion, and another solid evening of action there, Matt. But you had to work for it. There's quite a few overtakes you did. Just how was your 3 races tonight?
I'd say that's a pretty good evening, considering. Yeah, just trying to just bag as many points as I can. The weight in the cars this season is pretty tricky. So yeah, just trying to bag as many points as I can, be consistent, and just keep knocking them in.
Yeah, how is it when today you were batting quite a few drivers, for instance, like Redshaw, who weren't necessarily in the championship fight? Is there any sort of different way you have to come up against them, a different mentality, or are you just fighting everyone as hard as you can?
At the moment, everyone is an enemy. So just fighting anyone as hard as I can, trying to get as many points on the board as early as possible, and just keep, like I said, just keep knocking them in. Nobody's treated differently, and just get as many points as I can as quick as possible.
And I was also wondering, you seem to be qualifying pretty well considering you have the weight. Are you pretty much just practicing solely with that 75 kgs, because you're going to be doing a lot of driving with the ballast?
To be honest, no. I'm doing a lot of work with the other guys. My main focus this season really is the team's championship, I've done all the other championships, and that's the last one that I want to get and tick off for the team. So I'm putting as much work in for those guys as much as I am for myself. So I'm doing a lot more testing without the ballast. And by the time we rock round to official practice and qualifying, just lump the weight in and just see how it goes. And I think it's working, to be honest.
Yeah, you're doing a good job. Yeah, shame for Cripps and Wilson. They had a few issues today, but you're certainly doing a good job this season. So yeah, good luck for the remaining races.
Thank you very much.
And Zach, yeah, that'll conclude the interviews, but certainly your final thoughts on what a hectic evening we had.
Well, it was great, wasn't it? From start to finish, we weren't bored at all. There was never a quiet moment. There was always something to talk about up and down the field. It was fantastic, and it's why we love TCUK. It's why we love touring cars. It's why we love Oulton Park. Yeah, just a smash and even. I think couldn't really have gone much better. I'm sure Eddie Millwood would like to disagree with me in terms of his workload going forward. But in a few weeks' time, Brands Hatch Indy, which is going to be a very interesting race. And of course, we've got the rest of the season to look forward to as well. We're not even half the way through yet.
Yep, we are one round away from halfway, and it won't be me or Zach. I believe it'll be Ewan O'Leary and Alex Goldschmidt in the commentary booth. So we'll see you in a couple of rounds' time. But of course, tune in on the 2nd of August for the next round of the VMO TCUK 2023. It's been myself, Cam Roger, and Zach Sweeney alongside me. We've had Mike Yao on the broadcast behind, thanks to Simply Race. And until the next race at Brands Indy, we wish you a very warm goodbye.